After spending a night in intense pain with the Wright family's eldest son, the system notified me to leave immediately. His female lead was about to make her entrance. I fled the hospital overnight, stealing one of his belongings in the process. For years later, my daughter got into a fight at kindergarten, and the teacher called both parents. I rushed there, only to see a familiar man crouching in front of the child, humbly asking, "Tell me, Uncle, what's your mom's name?" Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Hilda Morgan. The man was slightly taken aback. What, isn't the surname Nelson? The little girl wrinkled her nose. Uncle, even though you're good-looking, you can't just change my mom's name like that. Impossible, absolutely impossible. The man, long accustomed to being in a position of power, shook his head in disbelief. He knelt on one knee, reaching out to hug the little girl who looked just like him. But seeing the girl take 2 fearful steps back, he let his hand drop in defeat. "Little one, how old are you?" She pouted. "Mom said not to answer strangers' questions." "A stranger, is it?" the man gasped. His handsome face drained of color. The teacher standing nearby was utterly bewildered. During the games this afternoon, the usually well-behaved little girl got into a fight with the class bully, despite his larger size. The bully ended up being beaten to tears by the little girl. His father is the Wright family's group president. It's said that Mr. Luther adores his wife and cherishes his son like his own life. The Wright family has only this one precious heir, and everyone spoils him rotten. The little girl comes from an ordinary family, raised single-handedly by her mother. This time, I'm afraid I'm in for some suffering. Sure enough, Luther arrived swiftly with his entourage in tow. Just as I was about to lose my temper upon realizing the other parent was late, I suddenly caught sight of the little girl standing in punishment nearby. My expression changed dramatically in an instant. Then he kept pestering the little girl with all sorts of questions. Meanwhile, his own little tyrant was stomping his feet nearby, crying and shouting, "Dad, Daddy, Papa," all completely ignored. Anyone who didn't know better would think he was the little girl's parent, hiding outside the door. My heart pounded like a drum. Neither advancing nor retreating is an option. System, something big has happened. Where is everyone? Didn't you say we wouldn't run into them again? I gripped the doorknob, my palm drenched in sweat, through the crack in the door. I kept a close watch on the movements inside. My daughter is still inside. I have to go in. Although the system has altered my appearance somewhat, what if Luther recognizes me? Wouldn't that expose everything, including Iris's identity? Would he try to take my daughter away? While hesitating, someone suddenly asked cheerfully from behind, "Iris's mom, why are you standing at the door without going in?" "Don't worry. Today is all about solving the child's problem." A familiar teacher stepped past me and pulled the door open with a clatter. I fell into the office in front of everyone's eyes. My daughter stood straight, her little face stubbornly tense. The moment she saw me, tears began to fall. She threw herself into my arms. "Mommy," the little girl's tears soaked the front of my clothes. I held the child in my arms, my heart aching for her. What a strong little girl. Before I arrived, she had been holding back her emotions, refusing to cry in front of others even when wronged. I couldn't help but let out a wow and burst into tears when I saw it. My heart was utterly shattered by her. I gently patted her back, softly comforting her while pulling out a few of her favorite White Rabbit candies from my pocket. A sharp gaze had been coiling around me like a venomous snake since the moment I entered. Now it weighed even heavier on my shoulders. It's so heavy I can hardly breathe. Without looking at the man beside me, I turned to ask the teacher what had happened. "She hit me first," the little bully shouted loudly. "We were playing house, and I wanted to be the dad. She said it wasn't necessary, that her little house only needed a mom and didn't need a dad." How could she not need a dad? "It's not like she was born from a rock," I asked in a low voice. "What else?" I don't believe my daughter would resort to violence over just these few words. If she had been the type to lash out at every taunt of no dad since childhood, she'd probably be a martial arts champion by now. The little bully fell silent, casting a glance at his father. Luther stood aside, his gaze icy and his voice frosty. What else did you say? And everyone has a father. Mom said only bad kids get abandoned by their dads. The entire room erupted in an uproar. Who would have thought a child could say such things, simple yet hurtful? I took a deep breath, slightly closed my eyes, and tried hard to suppress the urge to act. Turned around and carefully checked if there were any other injuries on my daughter, then stood up and walked towards the little bully, asking coldly, "Did you grab her by the neck?" The little tyrant, usually spoiled and acting tough. Panicked when facing an adult, he tugged at his father's pant leg, but got no response, and tears welled up instantly. Without even glancing at his father, I looked down at the little tyrant and said, "Apologize to Iris right now." The little tyrant shot me a glare. "No, I won't." He then abruptly elbowed me and took off running. I grabbed him by the collar, lifting him up like a chick. "Since your father won't discipline you," I glanced at the man with a dark expression, "I will." The teacher was intimidated by my imposing manner and hesitated before trying to step forward to stop me, but was Luther silenced with a glare. "Teacher, try touching me if you dare. Do you even know who my mother is?" The little tyrant flailed his stubby legs wildly. "I don't care who your mother is. If you don't apologize today, you're not going anywhere." A flash of pink suddenly burst into view. The weight in my hand abruptly vanished. Smack! A sudden slap came down. My cheek suddenly stung with pain. A coquettish woman snatched little tyrant from my hands, hugged the child, and angrily scolded the teacher nearby. "Are you just going to stand there and watch my son get grabbed by this crazy woman? I'm going to report your kindergarten." She glared at me viciously and tugged at Luther's sleeve. "Honey, call the police." A deep palm print immediately rose on my face, stinging with sharp pain, probably scratched by the tiny diamonds on her manicure. Iris saw my face bleeding and burst into terrified tears, clinging to my leg while trembling uncontrollably, sobbing softly, "Mommy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry." My heart twisted into knots as I listened. Watching the family of 3 across from me, I felt as though I'd plunged into an icy abyss. Though we'd never met before, I knew exactly who she was the moment she walked in. She was the female lead, Leslie. In the car, my daughter and I remained silent the whole way, until I took her to her favorite McDonald's and sat down. She still clutched the tray liner, not saying a word. The silence of my daughter hurt me more than the stinging pain on my face. The principal of the kindergarten came out to mediate, and the matter was temporarily resolved. Before leaving, Leslie shouted about suing the kindergarten and me with a lawyer. Meanwhile, Luther kept silently watching Iris. I stood sideways in front of my daughter, blocking his scrutinizing gaze. These past few years, I've been raising the child alone, relying on the system's mission rewards, so life hasn't been too hard. However, when it comes to the absence of a father, I've never found a good way to handle it. The hidden danger finally erupted today. I remember the little tyrant with both parents alive. Robust in build, flamboyant in personality, utterly lawless. Clearly a child doted on and raised in a honey jar. Moreover, he was Iris's age. It seems the female lead made her appearance not long after I left. He quickly won over the heart I had failed to warm in 3 years. Did he also fall in love with her at first sight? "Mommy," a soft, milky voice pulled my attention back. A strawberry milkshake was pushed in front of me. "Mom, you eat it." Iris pursed her lips, the corners of her eyes red from prolonged sobbing, her little face both stubborn and adorable. "Didn't you always want to eat it?" I never let her have ice cream before, and whenever she got the chance to taste it, she would lick it slowly in small bites, reluctant to finish it. Now she's given it all to me. "I want to make Mom happy," she murmured softly. "I was wrong today." "Iris, what did you do wrong?" "I didn't beat Mike." The little girl clenched her fist. "Next time, I definitely won't lose." I wiped away my tears and laughed, ruffling my daughter's hair. "Mom was wrong too. I shouldn't have made him apologize. I should have just spanked his bottom," thinking of the image of little tyrant being beaten like a tiny flying pig. Iris finally smiled. We shared a kid's meal together, making plans for the next fight, unaware that a luxury car had been parked not far from the restaurant all along. it even followed us all the way to our apartment building, returned home. I held the little girl and comforted her for a long time, nearly exhausting all the stories in my pocket before she finally fell asleep, still sniffling. In the dim light, I gazed at her delicate features, which were growing more and more beautiful, and increasingly resembling that person's strikingly handsome appearance. People even hand me business cards on the street, asking if my child would model for them. Today outside the door, seeing Luther standing with the child, my heart nearly leaped out of my chest. The madness of that night 4 years ago came flooding back like a tide. During university, I fell in love with Luther at first sight, at a club gathering. A senior who had been rejected by me multiple times used a game to pressure me into kissing him, egged on by the other students present. Otherwise, drink as a penalty. I said I was allergic to alcohol and refused to continue. They laughed loudly, saying I couldn't handle the game. And someone even shouted something like, "When a woman says no, she means yes," pushing him to kiss me. It was the first time I had encountered such a situation, and I was on the verge of tears. Everyone present was the senior's friend, and not a single person stood up for me, until a cool hand pulled me out of the crowd and shielded me behind them. A cold, clear voice sounded above my head, "She doesn't want to. What are you trying to do?" That was my first encounter with Luther. Later, I asked someone to get his class schedule, found opportunities to linger in his sight, created chance encounters, and took the initiative to show kindness. Confessing my feelings time and time again, he remained unmoved, turning a blind eye, exuding an icy aloofness. An insider advised me to give up, saying I had my eyes on the eldest son of the prestigious Wright family, an unattainable flower on a high peak. They said that after his white moonlight went abroad to pursue her dreams, he sealed his heart and locked away love. But I discovered his indifference wasn't just directed at me. He treated everyone who approached him with equal coldness. His kindness is so deeply hidden, always in places others can't see, never making a fuss. For example, when I wanted to study in an empty classroom in Building 3, my roommate advised me not to go, saying there had been a peeping Tom there recently who hadn't been caught yet. I don't know where Luther heard about it, but he used his connections and paid out of his own pocket to install cameras in every corner of Building 3. The suspect was caught within a week. For example, that senior who harassed me later ran away whenever he saw me. I believe everyone has a heart of flesh and blood. He's actually a decent person, just hasn't fallen for me yet. Why can't I be brave for once? If I do nothing and just endure until graduation, I'll definitely regret it. So I gave myself 3 years to warm up Luther. This iceberg, what does it matter if he has a white moonlight? The one near the water gets the moon first. Finally, on the stargazing camping night of our graduation trip, Luther got drunk. I took advantage of the situation and kissed his slightly cool lips under the starry sky. I was just about to quietly retreat when a hand hooked around the back of my neck and pulled me back. A scorching breath, laced with the scent of alcohol, wrapped around me. Luther opened his eyes, staring at me unblinkingly, revealing a smile for the first time. That smile carried a hint of arrogance, his voice low and hoarse. "Do you like me that much?" I was half propped up, my neck pinned down, my core strength failing. I couldn't hold on much longer. In desperation, I blurted out, "What's the point? You don't even like me." His eyes darkened, his thin lips pressing together. "What? You're denying it after we've kissed?" His shameless logic stunned me. Gritting my teeth, I retorted, "Deny what? Do you even need it? You slept quite soundly leaning on someone else today, didn't you?" "Me? When we set off today, I deliberately left the seat next to me empty. He didn't get on the bus for a long time, and in the end, someone else took the seat. He didn't sit there, someone else did, and now he's blaming me for leaning on someone else." Anger surged through me, and I stared at his pale, slightly parted lips before biting down on them in a fit of frustration. He groaned in pain, his large hand gripping my neck and pulling me backward. "What are you crying for?" Luther sighed with a hint of helplessness. "I'll never like you again." The metallic taste of blood lingered between our lips and tongues. Someone must have bitten their tongue during the fierce kiss. As soon as the words left my mouth, The grip on the back of my neck suddenly tightened. My lips were captured once more. He cupped my face in his hands, his warm, moist lips pressing against mine as he enunciated each word clearly, thinking of backing out now. Too late. After that day, we became a couple, but everyone believed that Luther only agreed reluctantly because he couldn't stand my persistence. Later, we experienced the utmost joy in countless nights. And I thought we could gradually move from physical compatibility to emotional connection. Yet no matter how engaged he was during the process, no matter how passionately he kissed or how fiercely he made love, he would become exceptionally cold afterward. Once, I woke up to find him smoking on the balcony all night. Like a cheating husband in painful struggle, I really couldn't stand his hot violence at night and cold violence during the day. Started to doubt myself. Even experiencing mental confusion. One day while walking on the road, I was almost hit by a car. A force pulled me back, narrowly missing the car. A bizarre voice I had never heard before suddenly rang out, supporting female character. You can't seek death. Your mission isn't complete yet. You can't exit early. I heard the so-called system voice. Only then did I understand why I couldn't warm Luther's heart. Turns out he was the male lead, while I wasn't the female lead. Just a plot device to move the story forward. I still have to complete the plot before I can leave. I asked the system how much time I had left. The system says there are 3 years left until the female lead makes her appearance. 3 years pass by quickly. Luther gradually transforms from being cold and indifferent to clingy, domineering, and overwhelmingly possessive. I sink deeper into it, growing more miserable with each passing day. His tenderness, his doting, his embrace were never meant for me. The day of exit finally arrived. The system said the female lead would soon return to the country, but to follow the plot, I first had to make Luther hate me to the core. So at his meticulously planned proposal, I publicly threw the ring he crafted himself into the champagne. I've fallen in love with someone else. Let's break up. I've never seen Luther with such panicked eyes before. Even when stock prices hit rock bottom, he remained as composed as ever. That day, he panicked, abandoning all the guests and leaving in utter despair. But his pride and self-respect wouldn't allow him to engage in clingy behavior. He simply drank himself into oblivion until he was hospitalized with a stomach hemorrhage. Late at night, I went to the hospital to see him. He lay in the VIP ward, his face deathly pale, eyes tightly shut, weak and powerless. My heart ached unbearably, just like under the starlight before, as I secretly leaned down to kiss him. Tears fell onto his long eyelashes. As I was about to leave, my wrist was grabbed. His voice was hoarse as he demanded to know why. I didn't answer. His eyes were bloodshot, pleading humbly, "Hilda, can you please not leave? Can you choose me?" The system's voice sounded again. "You two were never meant to be. Even if he can't live without you now, it's just a plot requirement. Do you really think he likes you? The worse he suffers now, the more he'll hate you when he remembers later. And the better he'll treat the female lead, cherishing the one before him in every way. You're just the one who planted the tree for others to enjoy." The more I listened, the angrier I became, my blood boiling with rage in my chest. Since it was a tree I planted with my own hands, wouldn't it be fair to pluck one of its fruits? So I turned back, pinning Luther's wrist, ignoring how the needle pierced his skin, staining the sheets red with blood. "Luther, the way you're begging me now really makes me." I lowered my head and bit his trembling lips. "Feel good." I took him forcefully in the undisturbed private ward. Luther bit his lip until it bled, his Adam's apple bobbing as he let out a trembling sigh. The only hand with any strength left red marks on my waist. The man who hated losing control the most was now veins bulging, completely overwhelmed, drenched in sweat from head to toe. I took out my phone, captured his unfocused gaze, and whispered with a light laugh by his ear, "Luther, compared to him, you're far behind." Then, with malice, I bit his chin, ignoring the tears that welled up instinctively, and gently licked them away. "Back then, you couldn't be bothered with me. And now you're desperate for me. You're just a dog I've been toying with. I'm bored of this." Looking at the last memento in my phone, I said coldly, "Don't disturb me anymore." Another night of utter madness. before dawn, I left City A. 3 months later, I had little Iris. The system promised to erase all traces he could use to find me, since we'll never meet again in this lifetime, and I have no intention of welcoming anyone new. I've decided to keep the child. Luther's genes are top tier in intelligence and looks. Keeping the child without the father might not be such a bad idea. Now the child is 4 years old. She is only her mother, and that's all she needs. The system said it might be a bug that caused the two kids to cross paths. To fix the issue, they arranged a handsome NPC for me for free to help me get rid of the male lead's pestering. Delivery is on the way, remember to check it. I was puzzled. But when I pushed open the door, I saw a large bulge under the blanket. Carefully lifting it, beneath lies a cold and somber face, eyes tightly shut. No way. How does this NPC look exactly like Luther? A resemblance that evokes the beloved. The easiest way to win someone's heart. Probably not yet the time to wake up. The man on the bed lay stiff as a log. Tall and large, he occupied more than half of my bed. The sight of this face filled me with anger. Through the blanket, I straddled him and angrily clamped my hands around the NPC's slender neck. I've hidden all the way here. Why do you still have to show up? I hate you so much. Damn system. Why can't you be mine? You scared our daughter into crying. Do you realize that? She's so sensible, so well behaved, and you still yelled at her. I scolded through tears, my vision blurred, completely failing to notice the man beneath me slowly opening his eyes with a complicated expression, silently listening to my accusations, until an unexpected hand settled on the small of my back, fingers gently wiping away my tears. Hilda, you're lying again, aren't you? I shuddered and rubbed my eyes. That voice, if it's not her, then who could it be? Luther's expression was more oppressive than during the day, the tense muscles beneath him pressing uncomfortably, stirring unease. I gasped sharply, arching my back in an attempt to flee. My wrist was seized, the world spinning before my eyes. The next second, I was flipped and pressed back into the soft bedding. You said you were playing with me like a dog. Rough fingertips traced inch by inch along my neck as I strained to pull away. Dogs can bite, you know. Hot, damp breath brushed against my collarbone. Even the slightest touch sends shivers down my spine. Suddenly, a strange male voice came from outside the door. Honey, our daughter is crying. Come out and check on her. Me, system. Are you doing this on purpose? Sending an NPC who arrives right on cue. Unbelievable. The man at the top didn't get angry but instead laughed. Though the smile didn't reach his eyes. Wife, surely he's not calling you. I sneered. Who else would he be calling? Remembering Luther's misdeeds during the day, I deliberately cooed toward the door. Honey, wait a moment. I'm swatting a mosquito. Luther heard me call the person outside honey right in front of him, and the veins on his forehead bulged as his grip tightened. A mosquito. He narrowed his eyes, hissing through clenched teeth. Do you think he'll believe that? His expression was full of disdain, as if believing it would make the other person a fool. Okay, honey, need any help? The man outside readily complied. No need. Go comfort our daughter first. At this moment, Luther's expression turned extremely grim. He deliberately made noise, yet the other party unconditionally trusted me. He looked like a clown. I lowered my voice and asked, Luther, how did you get into my room? He released me and sat up on the edge of the bed. I'd like to know that too. Just now, I was downstairs, then suddenly lost consciousness. When I woke up, I saw you crying. I wasn't crying. I turned my head away and changed the subject. You said you were downstairs. Were you following us in your car? Luther pursed his lips in silence, tacitly admitting to the act of following, yet I dared not delve deeper. After all, Luther was unaware of the so-called system, this world's ultimate boss. Recently, the system has been frequently reporting errors. With a series of bugs left unfixed before new ones emerge, they promised to arrange a handsome NPC for me, but ended up sending the real person to my bed. As the footsteps outside the door faded away, I grabbed Luther and pulled him up. You should leave now. Luther adjusted his disheveled tie, same as always, used and discarded. What are you muttering about? The man stood at the doorway, looking down at me with turbulent, complex emotions in his eyes. my nerves were on edge. I was constantly worried about the NPC running into him. No idea what that guy's actual capabilities are. Luther is so smart. What if his words are full of loopholes? You're nervous. Luther leaned by the door. The more uneasy I became, the more nonchalant he acted, afraid the affair will be exposed, or afraid that, suddenly, his eyes darkened as he pushed me back into the room and shut the door behind us. Click, the lock snaps shut. What are you doing? I exclaim, only to have my mouth covered again. The wooden door behind me knocks once more. Honey, I've calmed our daughter down, the man outside the door said gently. Oh, I struggled, whimpering in response, my knees pinned down by the man, my hands pressed above my head, unable to move. Darling, I've managed to calm our daughter down. Can you reward me tonight? The voice was sticky, the tone intimate. I want you to tuck me in, darling. I heard it. The faintly beating heart instantly died. If NPC guy knew Luther was inside and still deliberately said that, it would be the end of me. Indeed, Luther was completely enveloped in a dark cloud, his heavy resentment making his expression utterly unreadable. Luther, calm down. I pleaded gently. We've been apart for 4 years, and you've got a wife and kids now. Let's not make a fundamental mistake, okay? While speaking, I kept shifting, trying to wriggle out of his embrace. Hilda, Luther's jawline tensed. No, I should call you Hilda now. Hey, whatever works, it's up to you. You went so far as to change your name and, a cool hand caressed my face, fingertips tracing my features with delicate precision, even altered this face slightly, just to escape me. Do I truly disgust and repel you that much? Over these 4 years, I've imagined countless times Luther's reaction upon waking up to find I'd packed up and run away. Anger, resentment, unwillingness, indifference, whatever. Never had I imagined he would appear so aggrieved before me. But Luther, in the end, I am not your leading lady. I tried to push him away, only to be pressed back against the door. MMMPH. Luther, this lunatic, he actually used his tie to gag me, through the silky fabric. He kissed my lips forcefully. Darling, are you okay? The voice outside asked again. I couldn't get a word in edgewise, pinned by Luther against the door. Being relentlessly demanded from, overwhelming shame instantly drenched me in sweat, my entire body trembling like a sieve. In the end, I hung limply in Luther's powerful arms, barely managing not to slide down the door and collapse onto the floor. He let out a mocking laugh, seemingly pleased with my reaction. Finally, he untied the necktie that had been gagging me, even using it to wipe away the trail of saliva at the corner of my mouth. The small damp patch on the tie made me curl my toes in embarrassment. Luther carefully folded it and tucked it into his pocket. He thoughtfully smoothed out my rolled-up nightgown for me, sighing close to my ear. Is it appropriate to react so strongly to an ex? I gritted my teeth in anger and scoffed. Still better than a little toy, don't you think? I truly despise this body's instinctive attraction to him. I pointed at the window. Can you leave through the window? I don't want my husband to misunderstand. Misunderstand? He smirked, stepping past me. Mrs. Hilda, is there anything between us? Then he simply opened the door. Indeed, shameless people are invincible. As soon as the door opened, my husband was right there. He was a gentle, fair-skinned young man, in stark contrast to the beast behind me. With a gentle smile, he merely asked casually upon seeing a living person, and a man at that, emerging from my room, Honey, are you entertaining a friend? I nodded. The young man glanced at my neck and remarked, It really is a venomous mosquito. It's all swollen. This mosquito is unlike any other. I'll apply some ointment for you in a moment, he said thoughtfully. By the way, what's your friend's name? Luther had remained silent since seeing my husband, like a massive black mountain, standing behind. At this moment, he merely raised an eyebrow. Luther, hello, nice to meet you. I'm Noel. Luckily, it was Luther who asked first, otherwise I would have been exposed. Only then did I realize that my husband was called Noel. If Luther is a mountain, then the handsome guy assigned by the system is more like water. Standing together, their eyes and brows share a 3 or 4 out of 10 resemblance. How to put it? Somewhat resembles Luther when we first met. Today's Luther has long shed the naivety of his university days. He controls the lifeline of the entire Wright family conglomerate, with every decision affecting countless families beneath him. In every gesture, there is the composure of one in power. Obviously, Luther also noticed Noel bore some resemblance to him. As he left the room, he deliberately slowed his pace, walking behind me, and teased in a low voice, "Hilda, your taste hasn't changed at all." His scorching palm, unseen by Noel, slid down along my spine, pressing and kneading. "Do you like dogs like me, or dogs of my kind?" I got goosebumps all over, just thinking about what this dog named Luther just did to me. Instant red face, stepping right on his polished leather shoes. I enjoy training dogs. Noel not only understands what is improper should not be asked about, but is also equally adept in both social graces and domestic skills. He very naturally handed me an apron. I was still in a daze when he proactively turned his back to me. Fortunately, I'm not slow on the uptake. I got it instantly, obediently. I stepped forward to tie it for him. "Thanks, wifey." A chilling gaze burned into my back, almost scorching holes through it. I saw Noel bustling about in the kitchen, some kitchenware, bought but never used once. I'd even forgotten where I'd stuffed them. Noel could deftly retrieve whatever was needed from every nook and cranny, like the head of the household, a frequent visitor to the kitchen. If it weren't for Luther constantly scrutinizing him, I would have wanted to applaud the NPC. Noel quickly prepared some light food like salad and sandwiches, and warmed up a glass of milk for me. Luther snatched my cup away. "You haven't been married long, have you? You're lactose intolerant. Does your husband not know that?" A cold sweat broke out on my skin. Noel raised his hand to ruffle my hair. "This is oat milk. How could I forget my baby gets diarrhea from drinking cow's milk?" Luther, me. "Your people are really something." System. Luther seemed unconvinced that Noel was my husband. Throughout the conversation, he kept setting traps to test how well Noel knew me. "Luther, why isn't there a nightlight at home? She has night blindness." Noel, "I accompany her wherever she goes. I am her nightlight." Luther, "Then you must be quite bright." Me. Luther, "Her birthday is coming soon. Do you know what gift you're preparing?" This is bad. It's a trick question. When I was with Luther, we once had an argument over a birthday. He is an absolutely rational person who weighs the pros and cons. When my birthday coincided with a major holiday, he suggested celebrating it either earlier or later. But I'm someone who values rituals to the fullest. I don't need grand gestures, just his company. Eventually, we compromised, celebrating on different days. But on my actual birthday, he must be with me. Noel smiled faintly, lips pressed together, and took my hand from the table, saying sheepishly, "I haven't decided yet, but I'll definitely keep that day free to spend with her." Luther looked as if struck by lightning, staring at our tightly clasped hands, the light in his eyes gradually dimming. I knew that Noel could answer so flawlessly because the system had given him an unfair advantage. Every word he said precisely hit Luther's sore spots. I watched him go from disdain and doubt to shock and anger, until finally only deep disappointment remained. But I couldn't soften my heart. He had already started a family with the female lead. I had already deprived my child of a father from birth. I couldn't set a bad example for my child. "Mommy." Iris appeared with droopy eyelids, clutching her stuffed bunny toy. "Sweetheart, why are you awake?" I picked her up. "You didn't wear socks or shoes again. Aren't your little feet cold?" My daughter looked over my shoulder at the two men in the living room. "Oh no, she hasn't met Noel before. What if she says something?" "Uncle." "Yes, fortunately, children uniformly call unfamiliar men uncle." This call made Luther's face grow even darker. I have a strong premonition that if Iris were to actually call Noel daddy in front of him, he would go crazy on the spot. Finally, Luther waved his hand and left in desolation. After settling the child, I turned to look at Noel. He propped up his long legs and casually lit a cigarette. "If you want to smoke, go outside. Iris hates the smell of smoke." He stubbed out the cigarette and raised an eyebrow at me with a smirk. "Well, how was my performance?" "Perfect, wasn't it?" Me. "It was all right." "Noel, your ex's face was darker than the pot in the kitchen." Me. Why did you take on such a bizarre urgent task, Noel? The system rewards more points for this one. It's 10 times the usual task. I even had to compete for it. Me, Noel touched his face, with this face that resembles hers, and he suddenly took a step forward, leaning over me from above. The service target unexpectedly suits my taste. I pointed to the wall behind him. Take a look. What's that? Noel turned his head. Black belt in Taekwondo. If you don't want to file a workplace injury claim on your very first day, I suggest you stay away from me and my daughter outside business hours. Over these years, raising my beautiful daughter alone, I've had to pick up some skills for self-defense, Taekwondo, Muay Thai, Wing Chun. I've learned everything I could. Then I warned the system. Today, for the sake of the plot, it had the NPC wake up my daughter. The child had night terrors when young and lacked a sense of security, waking up at the slightest noise. Next time this happens, I'll destroy this damn system. The system replied coldly. If needed, we can arrange sleep aids or sleeping pills for the child. Me, are you out of your mind? How old is she? System, so what? As long as it doesn't affect the plot progression. My hands and feet turned ice cold. Suddenly I realized, the system is ruthless, treating all beings as straw dogs. We are merely pawns in its game world, ready to sacrifice the rook to save the king at any moment. Arranged to stay temporarily in the guest room. By the time I lay back in bed, it was already 3 a.m. I reached under the pillow and found an extra ring that didn't belong to me. It is Luther and Leslie's wedding ring. The night is as cool as water. In my palm lies a plain band warmed by my touch. 4 years ago, I also had such a ring Luther made with his own hands. It was just that I heartlessly discarded it. Actually, before he officially proposed, I already knew he had been preparing for it. At that time, the system had already issued the evacuation order, urging me repeatedly to act. I could only watch helplessly as he bustled about, full of anticipation, then deliver the final blow to him. He appears cold on the surface, but in reality, he can't hide anything. Many people thought we weren't a good match, so he made sure to invite everyone who knew me. He personally crafted matching rings and even edited a montage of our relationship videos. Most of the photos and videos were taken because I pestered him to do so. Though I have no idea how he managed to sync a copy of my private album from my phone. Born into a wealthy family, Luther was inherently aloof. Even at his most physically heated, those unfathomably deep eyes remained calm. Despite his distant family relationships, he had always yearned to build a warm little home of his own. To marry me, Luther rejected the arranged business marriage set by his family long ago. Later, he started his own business and founded a new company. The Wright family offered no support whatsoever. Outsiders didn't know and assumed he secured funding solely because of the Wright family's reputation. Little did they know it was all due to the patented achievements he and his team worked tirelessly for, day and night. They turned a blind eye to his efforts and would casually mock him with a few light-hearted remarks. Being the young master sure is nice. Starting a company puts you miles ahead of others from the get-go. I felt aggrieved on his behalf, even more upset than if the ridicule had been directed at me. He never said much. Just when utterly exhausted, he would hold me tight and say, "Baby, give me a quick recharge." I'd greedily return the embrace, wishing I could memorize every inch of him. He wasn't mine. These hugs were all stolen by me. Remembering this, my pillow grew damp with tears. The phone vibrated in the darkness of the night. "It's Luther," he asked. "Did I leave my ring at your place?" I replied, "Yeah, I'll have it delivered to you tomorrow. Are you free? Can you make a trip?" I was about to refuse when the other side added, "That ring is very important to me. Please." I sighed, recalling the time I had lost his ring, and reluctantly agreed. "Fine, where to?" As I changed outfits in front of the mirror, the system mercilessly mocked me. "You don't actually think he left the ring behind on purpose just to see you, do you? Don't forget how much he dotes on Leslie. Perhaps they want you to go over to avenge yesterday's humiliation. You'd better be mentally prepared." Of course I know how much Luther dotes on his female lead. Actually, Leslie has been active on screen all these years. It was simply because the acting was too poor, never gaining much traction. Even though Luther poured in massive amounts of money, it doesn't matter. By that time, Luther's business had already grown very large. Whoever he wanted to promote would become famous. Luther established a personal studio for his beloved, investing heavily to poach a top-tier agent to represent her. Leslie wants to win awards, but lacks acting skills. No big deal. Luther hired a master screenwriter to craft a tailor-made script that perfectly fits her personality. Being yourself shouldn't require acting skills, right? Even so, Leslie was still reported to keep laughing during filming. After spending nearly a small fortune, Leslie only won the most meaningless award. Many netizens criticized the Wright family, saying Capital was raping audience aesthetics, even digging up Luther's personal information to cyberbully him. But he turned a deaf ear and kept throwing money at it. No wonder Little Tyrant was so arrogant that day, shouting, "Do you know who my mom is? A female star built on mountains of gold and silver, a beloved female lead. I said to the system, if you're so afraid of us getting back together, then don't push him in front of me." But the system replied that the bug has already occurred and must be fixed. The male lead was initially just unwilling to let you go, but now that he knows you ran away pregnant and raised a daughter, his mindset has changed. Because of your rule-breaking actions back then, an extra child was created, causing a rift between him and the female lead. You must correct the mistake and completely sever Luther's hopes. What if I refuse? For years ago, I endured it once, forced to hurt him, to bully him, making the devoted forsake love. The system fell silent for a moment before its inorganic voice coldly responded, "If the bug affects the main storyline, the system will restart the story." How does it restart? By having him or your daughter encounter some sort of accident. Without variables, everything naturally starts over. I clenched my fist. Luther gave an address near a film set. Coincidentally, a director friend asked me for an emergency favor, having Iris make a guest appearance. The child star they hired for their short drama fell ill. My daughter is adorable, beautiful, and well-behaved. Everyone in the film crew adores her. I left my child with a close friend to watch over and went alone to find Luther, since we're destined to part. I don't want my child to develop unnecessary affection for her father. Luther was sitting in a luxurious limousine. The scorching summer heat contrasts sharply with the icy blast of the car's air conditioning. I shivered, set down the ring, and turned to leave. Suddenly, he slammed a stack of photos onto the table, pointing at one of them. His voice was frigid. "He wasn't by your side when you gave birth. You've always been the one taking care of the child since kindergarten. He didn't even come to the child's birthday party. You dragged yourself to the grocery store with a fever. He hasn't been looking after you and the child at all." I glanced at the photos scattered all over the floor. I don't know how Luther managed to collect these. They were all photos of me and my daughter over the years. Noel just started working a few days ago. There's no way he could appear. Hilda, he's not worthy to be the child's stepfather. If he's not worthy, are you? Mr. Luther. I looked down at him condescendingly. Even her biological father couldn't do it. Why should I expect my new boyfriend to? You, Luther, what right do you have to judge him? He stirred up the resentment I'd buried deep over the years, and I began lashing out without thinking. Right, you were busy spending money on Leslie, accompanying her through childbirth, spoiling your little tyrant. Enough. Luther couldn't take it anymore. I stopped. From Luther's perspective, how unreasonable, bitter, and harsh I must have seemed. I was the one who slept with him, and I secretly had his child. I was the one who refused the marriage, and I was the one who pushed him away. But when I saw the cozy setup in the RV, I couldn't hold back the grievance of being manipulated by the system. This is Leslie's RV. It was Luther who prepared it for her. After a long silence, Luther spoke first, his voice terrifyingly hoarse. "You're right. I didn't take good care of you all." Looking at the faint ring mark on his ring finger, I still uttered an insincere remark. "I can raise my daughter myself. It's none of your business. Let's each go our own way, and I wish you happiness." He stared at me intently. "Do you really mean that?" I let out a heavy sigh. This must be the difference between the female lead and the supporting female character. I'll arrange for Iris to transfer schools later. We probably won't meet again. Luther parted his lips slightly, as if wanting to say something more. Suddenly, the car body swayed slightly. Someone was about to board, not just one. I was grabbed by Luther around the waist and dragged deep into the RV to hide. "What are you doing?" I hissed. Nearly yelping from his sudden movement, Luther put a finger to his lips, signaling me to stay quiet. Just then, Leslie was seen pulling and tugging with a young puppy as they got into the car. The other person was the male lead's second in command from the same drama crew. As soon as the car door closed, without even removing their makeup, they clung to each other and started making out. The puppy teased, "Leslie, you're really bold. Daring to flirt with me in public," Leslie coquettishly teased, still full of youthful vigor. "Getting aroused so easily. If I hadn't covered for you, the camera would have caught everything." The young stud pinched Leslie's soft waist. "It's only because someone's been mischievous that my little brother got excited. You're the thief crying stop thief. But after all, this is a production your husband invested in. With so many crew members around, gossip spreads fast. We should still." "Afraid of what? If he can't perform, does that mean I can't go hunting? I'm a perfectly good young woman in my prime. Am I supposed to stay chaste for him?" The young pup exclaimed in surprise. "Mr. Luther is no good, can't tell. He's the juiciest piece of meat being eyed in the industry. So many people are waiting to step over you to climb up." "Ha!" Leslie tied up her loose hair. "Wasted effort. Luther only has a decent face, good for showing off in public. And he's generous with spending on me. But in private, he's a block of wood, completely unresponsive no matter how you tease him. If that's not some kind of issue, what is?" The young pup pounced and hugged her. "Leslie sis, I'm still the best, right?" The only response he got was a series of unrestrained, wanton moans. I was utterly shocked. "Aren't you angry, not rushing out to catch them in the act? What's the point of hiding with me to watch the live show?" Luther sneered. "Do you think we could explain ourselves if we go out now? Indeed, reason has turned into unreason." I shrank my head, thinking Leslie actually said Luther wasn't up to it. I couldn't help but glance downward. "Luther, are you under a lot of work pressure?" "I've heard that under stress, that tends to happen here." Suddenly, he wrapped his arm around my waist and pulled me into his embrace. "What do you think? I don't dare move. Some murder weapon is quite noticeably pressing against my butt cheek. This doesn't seem like can't. More like can too much." Just like that, I was Luther's arms, listening to the decadent music outside, and before I knew it, I actually fell asleep. I woke up to find the place deserted. I wiped the drool off my face and stretched. That was such a good sleep. Ever since the NPC moved in, I haven't had a single peaceful night's sleep. Always dreaming that Noel was coming to chop me down with a knife on the system's orders, while I was asleep. Luther carried me and moved me to the sofa outside. Probably half of his body is numb from me using it as a pillow by now. I patted his firm chest and said, "Mr. Luther is really generous. His wife cheats with a young hunk. Yet he remains unshaken like a mountain." He gave me a sidelong glance, his tone both sour and resentful. "No. I'm petty and hold grudges. See, I knew it. He really did get close to me just to get back at me for dumping him back then. What exactly should I do, Luther, to make this anger go away? I just want to return to a peaceful life with my daughter as soon as possible." After returning the ring, I went back to the set to pick up my daughter, but then I ran into an unwelcome guest. "Noel has arrived." I don't know what he said to Iris, but the little girl no longer seemed as distant as yesterday, obediently nestling in his arms to sleep. He said there's a heavy rainstorm outside and came specifically to take us back. Iris is asleep, and it would be overly dramatic if I insisted on taking her to squeeze onto a bus. Just as I sat down in Noel's passenger seat, a pair of glaring headlights swept towards us. A blinding white light filled my vision. Squinting, I barely made out the familiar silhouette of a Maybach parked opposite. The man in the car wore an angry expression, his gaze as sharp as a hawk's. All I heard was Noel giving a cold laugh before suddenly leaning in, right in front of Luther. He bent down and kissed me. I instinctively pushed him away. Don't move, the male lead is watching. Noel pinched my chin, tilted my lips apart, his scorching breath brushing against my cheek. The back of my neck was pressed down, leaving me unable to move. From Luther's perspective, the two of us were locked in an inseparable kiss, until the sound of a car starting came from across the way. The angry roar of the engine echoed through the parking lot. Noel finally let go. I slapped him backhanded. He pressed his cheek, smiling lazily. Hilda, this is just the system's way of teaching you a lesson. You violated the rules today. You know, you can't spend so much time alone with the male lead. I fired back. So you're the system's lapdog? Say whatever you want. Noel shrugged with an indifferent expression. I'm here for the points. Nothing else matters. Don't you think the female lead's character has already collapsed? Though I'd never met the female lead before. The white moonlight that Luther had been pining for so long couldn't possibly be the current Leslie. I trust Luther's judgment. This is none of your concern. As I gaze at the torrential rain outside the window, I recall Luther's pained expression in the end. Even inside the car, I feel as if the storm has drenched me in a chilling cold. I always felt that Luther and Leslie's relationship wasn't as simple as the system made it out to be. Soon, my premonition came true. Hashtag Wright family's young mistress cheats with junior colleague. Hashtag popular actress Leslie maintains dual lives on and off screen. Hashtag RV transformed into love nest. Mr. Luther wears a tall green hat. Hashtag the Wright family group remains silent. A flood of Leslie photos entering and exiting with male celebrities, along with ambiguous, blurry kissing shots, spread across the internet overnight. Coupled with eyewitness accounts from the film crew, the rumors gained even more credibility. Marketing accounts are writing about it so vividly, as if they were eavesdropping outside the RV. In the past, Leslie's negative trending topics would prompt an immediate response from the Wright family's PR team and legal department. But now, even as the scandal trends, the Wright family remains unmoved. Leslie's few remaining fans can't hold back anymore, flooding the Wright family's corporate Twitter account with pleas for them to step up and clear the young madam's name, only to be instantly blocked by the official account. Now everyone could see it clearly. The Wright family was giving up on Leslie, yet none of this concerned me. After helping Iris with her school transfer, I never saw Luther again. He drove away that day and completely vanished without a trace. Noel, that kiss seemed to have broken his defenses. Although I didn't mean to hurt him. Since it's already happened and we have no future, it's better not to have any further entanglements. I fell into an emotional slump, and my sensitive daughter begged me to take her to Disneyland. Her long-cherished dream. Mom, can we go to the amusement park, please? I hugged the little cotton-padded jacket of my heart. Okay. The only thing I've never regretted is stealing her from Luther's side. Amusement park day. The weather was scorching, and little Iris had flushed cheeks after playing a few rides. Iris, would you like some ice cream? The ice cream line was very long and completely exposed. I was afraid she might get heatstroke waiting with me. So I had her sit inside the shop while I queued. When I returned, Iris was gone. A woman wearing large sunglasses was sitting in her spot, fair skin with a delicate chin. Where is Iris? I asked coldly. Don't be in such a hurry, Iris's mom. The woman took off her sunglasses, her charming eyes gazing at me. Should I call you Hilda? Or, her red lips curved slightly. Hilda. I clenched my fists. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just here to discuss something with you. It's not convenient with the child around. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her and picked up my phone to call the police. The bodyguard behind her immediately knocked my phone out of my hand. The phone slipped and the screen shattered. Don't worry, after all, it's Luther's child. I won't harm her. You knew all along. Her willow leaf brows arched slightly. Yes, and if you can't speak properly, I can't make any promises. A corner of the dessert shop. I stared expressionlessly at Leslie across from me, thinking of the recent scandals about her trending online. I preemptively said, I wasn't the one who exposed your dirty laundry. I'm not that bored. She scoffed coldly. There's no way you'd have the connections to orchestrate all this. Connections? Could it be? I suddenly looked up, That's right, it's my dear husband, Luther, Leslie said through gritted teeth, and even that young man was arranged by him. Arranging a handsome guy to cuckold himself, for what? To force me to initiate the divorce. He's truly pulling out all the stops. Leslie's eyes were filled with resentment and unwillingness. I thought I had misheard. Impossible, you two are. I almost blurted out the male and female leads. Leslie's expression turned strange. Hilda, do you know something? What should I know? Didn't he tell you? Mike isn't his son. I suddenly stood up. It seems you hold much more weight in his heart than I imagined. I merely used you to threaten him, and he truly didn't dare tell you anything. Obediently taking the fall for a full 4 years, Leslie flaunted her manicure smugly. Me? What are you talking about? When you left with his child, I also returned home pregnant with someone else's. By the time we got married, he was already playing daddy to another man's child. Me? Whose child is it? Leslie's expression darkened. You don't need to know. Anyway, he could even swallow such an unbearable humiliation, playing the role of my dutiful husband for so many years, and now he's actually teamed up with outsiders to screw me over. Her features twisted into an especially ferocious expression from anger. It's all your fault. The moment you appeared, all his promises to me became void. Now he's forcing me to divorce. Otherwise he won't help me clean up that mess. I took a deep breath, exhaling all the turbid air within me, and said calmly, then just get a divorce. Leslie, what did you say? Me? Isn't he unresponsive to you? Don't you also despise his inadequacy? If you divorce, he'll step forward to protect you. If you don't, it'll be mutual destruction for both of you. Leslie shuddered all over. You were there that day too. Yes, he heard everything. Leslie slumped back. He really doesn't like me. She lowered her head. He didn't even react seeing me like that with someone else. Me? You didn't get involved with that younger guy just to provoke him, did you? Ended up crossing the line yourself. What do you know? When we were kids, he always followed me around and even said he'd marry me when we grew up. She covered her face in agony. What's wrong with me chasing my dreams? I'm not like you, always revolving around men. I have dreams. I want to pursue my career. Wasn't your so-called dream built with his hard-earned money? Doesn't she know how much Luther has been criticized over the years just to push her to the top? When I was gathering information on Leslie, I came across many disgusting photoshopped images of Luther torn apart. Black and white obituary photos were just the beginning, not to mention countless insults and curses. I don't know Luther what leverage Leslie has over him. Whether it's his hazy first love making him comply with Leslie's every request, or simply because he's the male lead and has to be good to her. Thinking about these years, he had never touched the female lead, living a restrained life, playing the role of a stepfather for others, and his daughter, upon their first meeting, only saw him as a creepy uncle. A pang of bitterness filled his heart. Leslie, I don't have time for your nonsense. This is between you and him. It's none of my business. I'm going to see my daughter. How is this unrelated to you? Leslie blocked my way. He cares so much about you. If you just speak up and ask him to show mercy, he'll definitely listen. Why should he listen to me? I sneered. And why should I stand with you against him? You might as well agree to his divorce terms. He certainly won't treat you unfairly. No, that madman has come back from abroad looking for me. Without the right family's protection, I'll die. I immediately realized that the so-called madman was probably Mike's biological father. He asked me for money, a lot of money. He was my boyfriend when I was studying abroad before. At first, I just wanted to let him try something new. But he couldn't control himself and got completely addicted. Then he started demanding money from me, beating me if I refused. He wasn't even mentally stable anymore. I had to get away from him. She covered her mouth. Luther. Your heroin out there is already rotten to the core. Time passed bit by bit. The sun scorched my skin, and with no sign of my daughter, my anxiety grew unbearable. I need to see Iris first before I can agree to anything, never mind what agreement. Ensuring my daughter's safety was the priority. Don't worry, I have a son too. I wouldn't harm a child. Suddenly, a bodyguard nervously leaned in and whispered a few words into Leslie's ear. Leslie's face instantly turned pale as she angrily scolded. What the hell is wrong with you all? Can't even keep an eye on one child. What good are you useless lot? I asked with a trembling voice. What's wrong? Is it Iris? I grabbed Leslie by the shoulders. Where's my daughter? Leslie averted her gaze. Mike's biological father took her away. I couldn't believe it. Who did you say took her? That drug addict, who knew he'd been following my car the whole way. He knew all my money came from Luther, and probably recognized your daughter's face, realized the child was connected to Luther. Those people would do anything for money. My daughter was taken by a madman. Madam, there's one more thing. The bodyguard hesitated. His words trailing off. Spit it out already. Leslie was utterly exasperated. This time, they were in deep trouble. She had only intended to speak with that woman alone, never expecting that lunatic would follow them. Luther's daughter had even been kidnapped. Well, the bodyguard suddenly knelt down with a thud. The young master heard we were coming to Disneyland and secretly hid in the trunk of the car to follow us. Just now, when the little girl went missing, we all went to search for her, and in the blink of an eye, the young master disappeared too. Leslie suddenly roared. Worthless. A deafening roar echoed in the ears. Iris, my darling. The scene before my eyes was swaying. I was about to collapse to the ground. A hand reached from behind and steadied my waist just in time. Luther held me close, his chest against my back radiating a steady heartbeat. Clutching at him like a lifeline, I desperately gripped his collar. Luther, please, save our daughter, I beg you. That lunatic wants money, doesn't he? I'll give it to him. Whatever he asks for, I'll pay. Luther grabbed my wrist and reassured me, saying, Hilda, calm down, I've already sent people after them. We'll turn City A upside down if we have to, but we'll get the child back. Don't be afraid. The Wright family coordinated with the police while setting up a citywide surveillance. Every suspicious vehicle passing through the city exit checkpoints is thoroughly inspected. As for us, we're also waiting for the kidnapper's call. In the afternoon, Leslie's phone finally rang. They demanded $50 million in unmarked cash up front, plus a card that could withdraw another $50 million from any overseas bank, a total of $100 million. I want to see my daughter. I clutched the phone tightly, straining to hear a familiar child's voice through the faint static. The other end remained silent, then abruptly hung up after a brief pause. The room instantly fell into dead silence. My heart plummeted into an abyss. 2 text messages from unknown numbers popped up in quick succession. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Abandoned dock in the East District. Don't call the police. I must see Leslie, or we'll die together if I don't see that bitch. Leslie turned pale, took 2 steps back, and screamed loudly. I won't go. She trembled like a leaf. Don't expect me to take the risk. I lunged forward and grabbed her by the waist, only to be violently shaken off. I lunged at her again, gripping her knees with all my strength, letting her manicured nails scratch my face, yet refusing to let go. Leslie, I beg you. I promise I'll keep you safe. She dragged me for 2 or 3 meters, her knees scraping harshly against the floor, instantly tearing the flesh to a bloody mess, yet I seemed to feel no pain at all, thinking about what my daughter might be going through at this very moment. Whether she's scared and crying, or being hurt, I'm holding on by sheer willpower. Luther tried to pick me up, but I pushed him away fiercely. Leslie, please, I was wrong earlier. I'll agree to anything you ask, please. He took your son too. Aren't you worried? Leslie froze her expression. Humph, if it weren't for the child, Luther would treat me a bit better. That bastard son, I've long wanted to stop raising him. Mom, a clear child's voice suddenly piped up. I shuddered and turned to see a dazed Mike. He was covered in blood and wounds, weakly leaning against the door for support. The once domineering little tyrant now wore an expression of confusion, bewilderment, fear, and grievance. Leslie choked up, yet never thought to step forward and embrace the child who had been lost and found. Don't know Mike heard how much. I wiped the bloodstains off my body, walked over to the child, and crouched down. Sweetie, did you see Iris? Mike heard the name Iris and suddenly burst into tears with a wah. He threw himself into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. She was taken by the bad people. I chased after them and hid behind the car. they found me on the road, called me a burden, and threw me out halfway. Threw you out, I shuddered, looking at the deep and shallow scrapes on his body.
A weak smile at me. Where are you going? I glanced at the pool of blood, then at him. Finally, I spotted my unharmed daughter on another stretcher. The heart slowly settled back down. The nurse asked, "Are you family? Hurry and get in the car. Don't delay." I nodded instinctively. "Family," I said. "Hospital VIP ward." Luther intermittently recounted what had just happened. They didn't fall directly to the ground, but rather landed on a pile of old clothes that were being transported. The pool of blood on the ground belonged to the criminal who had been shot dead on the spot and fell straight down. Luther held my hand and then touched my face. "I promised you I would protect our daughter. What if there are no old clothes below? If you jump down, it would be. Then I'll accompany Iris on her way. She'd be scared. At least she'll have her incompetent father by her side." I covered his lips, not wanting to hear these words anymore. But there's one nagging doubt. If I don't get the answer, I'll never be able to move past it in this lifetime. Why would you rather take enormous risks to protect Leslie? Why were you willingly her fallback option back then? Luther looked at me meaningfully. "Because her life is tied to yours. She lives, you live." "How is that possible? I've never heard the system mention that before." I didn't believe it at first either, until she effortlessly found you and brought me to where you were hiding, right in front of me. She made a cut on her arm. I saw with my own eyes how an identical wound suddenly appeared on you in the same spot. Now that I think about it, I do recall inexplicably getting random wounds on my body. What if that person really intends to take her down with him, and you're all present? I can't guarantee saving everyone. Luther coughed lightly twice. I'd instinctively save you first, but if she ends up dead or injured, it would still be your loss. She's quite a ruthless character. Every time she forces me to do something I don't like, she harms herself, harms you, to make me comply. So all these years, Leslie has been manipulating the male lead like this, making him serve her, until I chased after my daughter and jumped. A flash of white light crossed my mind, and I heard a voice calling itself the system. Luther told me that when he broke free from the system's control, he finally learned the truth of everything. Everything originated from the system's attempt to conceal the first bug that emerged in this world. Leslie, as the female lead, had a character breakdown. To resist the system's will, she did all sorts of absurd things while studying abroad. To cover up this bug, the system had to give her special privileges, forcibly making the male lead Luther stay with her. When I jumped down with Iris, I completely broke free from the system's control over my personal will. And that's why I can say all this. Luther pulled my hand to his lips and kissed it. "Now, I'm not anyone's male lead. I'm just your Luther." From this, it seems that it was through our repeated rule-breaking actions that we inadvertently broke free from the system's constraints. Luther seemed to think of something. "Hilda, just in case, if something really happens to me this time, could you promise not to let our daughter call anyone else Dad? Otherwise, I won't rest in peace." "Don't say that." I covered his mouth. "Iris has never called anyone else Dad. What about that? Noel is an NPC sent by the system to make you back off. He's long gone after this job. I have zero connection with him." Luther immediately breathed a sigh of relief. "Honey, could you call the doctor again for me? I want to be discharged as soon as possible." Me. 2 weeks later, Luther and Iris were both discharged from the hospital. Under our careful care, the child gradually forgot the fear from that time. Perhaps it was Luther holding her during the most dangerous moment that made her especially clingy to her father now. Luther goes wherever she follows, like a little tail, and I haven't heard the system's voice for a long time. It seems this world has slipped from its control, so it's moved on to wreak havoc in another one. As for us, we are no longer bound by the script's manipulation. I am myself, he is himself. We are all independent individuals. Meanwhile, Leslie, after fleeing abroad, without the right family's protection, found herself hunted by a host of enemies she had offended overseas. Living a life of utter misery, she left in a hurry, without taking her son. 6 months later, during a charity event at the orphanage, we saw Mike hiding in the corner. Luther and Leslie were only a nominal couple, with no real relationship. The biological parents were unable to fulfill their custody rights, so Mike was sent to the orphanage. His eyes lit up the moment he saw us, but soon dimmed again. I walked over and asked if he would like to come home with us. The once arrogant little chubby kid was gone, leaving only a dirty little pitiful soul. He lifted his little head, suddenly wrapped his arms around my waist, and burst into loud sobs. "Auntie, I'm the bad kid, right?" The child's tears burned hot. "So that's why Mom didn't want me, right?" The past Leslie's malicious instigation has now become a boomerang falling upon her own child. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. My tongue bitter with unspeakable words, I asked Luther if I could take him home. Luther glanced at his daughter, Iris. "Do you want to?" Iris nodded vigorously. "Yes, I've got another little follower." Mike asked shyly, "Can you teach me how to fight?" "I want to learn too." Iris patted her chest and said, "No problem, but you have to call me Big Sis first." Big Sis, me, honey, is this really right? I feel like our daughter has become a little bully. Luther smiled. "I actually think she has a bit of someone's domineering style from back in the day." That night, I personally demonstrated to him what true queenly dominance looks like. The room's air conditioning was set very low. The skin within reach was so scorching and sticky. I tied Luther's wrists with my tie, pressing them above his head, then I began to do as I pleased. To act without restraint, every inch of his muscles, every rhythmic movement, shall serve my will and be under my control. I touched the plain band on his ring finger and sneered, "Still can't bear to part with your wedding ring from Leslie." I forcibly pulled off his ring and was about to throw it away when he stopped me. "Hilda, this is the one you threw away." I found it again. Luther clenched the ring between his teeth, his tongue pressing against the inner band. "Oh right, Hilda." After calling her Hilda for 4 years, I almost forgot her original name. "Darling, can I have a reward too?" Luther always remembered Noelle's deliberate mention of reward, and would occasionally use it to tease me in bed. "No, you'll have to endure it. Honey, have mercy on me, then you'll have to tell me first. Why after we finished before? You always went off alone to smoke in frustration." His evasive gaze was caught as I gripped his chin and turned it back. At that time, a voice kept nagging in my head, saying you only liked my body, that you simply saw me as a bed partner. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, then told him about the many little details that made me fall for him. Only when he heard about the incident at the Three Teachings building did he blink in surprise, indicating he hadn't known about my plans to study there. I just heard there was a peeping Tom who hadn't been caught, and since I happened to have connections, I helped deal with it. I buried myself in his plump chest, laughing so hard that my whole body shook. As expected of the male lead, Luther is inherently an excellent person. He grew flushed at the corners of his eyes from my nuzzling, his voice becoming restless, his Adam's apple bobbed violently, breathing heavily, sweat dripped continuously. Soaking the silk sheets beneath, exhausted from play, I collapsed onto his chest and watched a drop of sweat slide down his jawline. Unable to resist, I tilted my head up to catch it with my tongue. "It's too salty." The chest beneath my cheek instantly tensed up, becoming so hard it felt uncomfortable. I deliberately disrupted his rhythm, stifling his pleasure. Only after he'd babbled through every endearment, "Baby, wife, my queen," did I finally let go. Another round of exhaustion. Too tired to lift my hands, I was Luther carried to the bathroom to be cleaned. Every pore in my body oozed laziness. Fingertips slipped into Luther's lips, brushing against his canine teeth. "Are you a dog? All you know how to do is bite." He pressed against my lips and slyly argued, "I am a dog, but I can't bear to bite you." I grabbed his hair and pulled him away. "Then let me see if this dog is fierce enough." As soon as the words were spoken, the sound of splashing water echoed. Luther's gaze was deeper and darker than ever before. The next day, I was so exhausted I couldn't keep my eyes open. Faintly, I heard Luther playing with our daughter at the door. "Iris, tell Daddy. Do you want a little brother?" "What's a little brother?" "It's the baby that comes after Mommy's belly gets big." I remembered how in the early hours of yesterday, Luther was ferocious beyond measure, unable to stop even when told to, and ended up eating until his stomach was painfully bloated. I was seething with anger, furiously throwing a pillow toward the door. "She doesn't want to. If you want a child, have one yourself." The end.